Okay, good morning again, and thank you everyone for joining this particular session. My name is Joel Onike. I'll be playing host to this particular program. This is a follow-up conversation from our initial conference that was held in March 30th, 31 of this particular year. It's a series of webinars which are follow-on post-conference events where our speakers on that particular forum will have a larger opportunity to expand on what they have discussed during the session. This session is being recorded. At the end of the session, you have access both to the presentations and also to the video. Please feel free to use the chat box to share your questions, share your ideas and comments to the speaker. Depending on how the speaker flows, you may take those conversations while he's still speaking or at the end of his session today. But feel free to engage and share with as much emojis as you can to show the speaker your appreciation and what is being shared at this point in time. What are we discussing today? We shall be looking at redefining culture in a fragmented world. During that particular conference, the speaker, Mr. Patel, made it very clear that culture is not something you create inside HR, that you sit down on your own and orchestrate as a canvas or as some kind of model, and then come and present into the organization and it is implemented. He was able to help us appreciate how fragmented the workforce and the world is today and why it's important that you consult, engage, and define culture across board the organization with in mind the values and also what is being achieved or what the organization intends to achieve at that point in time. Mr. Tayo Patayo is the head of people and strategy at the organization, and he's going to be sharing with us in detail his perspective, his understanding in this particular area, and some great frameworks that we can use. Tayo, if you're there, I'd like to hand over to you so you can share your slides and then take over the conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, Joel. Good morning, everybody. So we have about 5 people on the seminar link already. I am excited to be here. Let me just quickly share my screen so that we can get started and others can join us today, this morning. Okay, so I think this function to share is all. All right, so can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? So if you can't see my screen so that I can know.
Yes, we can see it, absolutely. Redefining culture.
Okay.
Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So we have opportunity to, whether I'm facilitating online or I'm facilitating physically, if the number of audience or participant permits, I always quickly want to get some level of introduction. So we are not many now. Let's we are here early enough. Let's just quickly introduce ourselves. Jill has done introductions. So can we take from Fatima, Dili, Balabad, Victoria. Hello guys, happy to meet you. So can I meet you quickly?
Good morning all. I'm not Fadima to Dalila. I'm actually using her account to log in from.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes. My name is Ukungo Akims. Nice to meet you.
Fantastic. All right. So what do you do? Where do you work?
Okay, I'm a lawyer. I work with F. Dalila & Co.
Okay, fantastic. Happy to be here. All right. Who else wants to go quickly? Okay, so let's just get into it, right? So you're welcome. We're getting to meet, and it would be good to get your expectation, all right? So can I quickly have expectations that you might have for this 60 to 75 minutes masterclass on redefining culture? Hello? Can I have your expectations, Umar, Victoria? Can I have your expectations?
Can I also share?
Yes, please, you can as well.
Okay, so for the theme on redefining culture, that presupposes that culture already exists and culture is changing or needs to change as the case is. How do we achieve this? Given the fact that our environment is fragmented, various generations, various interest groups, various focuses. How do we achieve this within the organization?
Fantastic, fantastic, amazing. Okay. So so let's get into it. But I would like to take one more person. Jo, thank you so much. Can somebody else share your expectation so that I can quickly move on? Quickly. I see people have joined up. So Victoria, could you care to share? Care to share? All right, so let's move on, right? Okay. So ground rules, right? It's important I always like to have some set of ground rules that we can all agree together. You agree with me that when we come for sessions like this, one thing is clear, is that we're all here to learn. We're here to be able to get perspectives. We're here to be able to have clearer understanding. We're here to also be able to take on verifiable ideas, concepts, or frameworks that we can begin to use and to apply to the course or the context of discussion. So one of the ground rules I want to lay is that we need to ask questions. So can we all agree? Can put your hand up in the chat box if you agree that, number one, we are going to ask questions. So that's one of the ground rules, right? The second ground rule is that we are going to contribute. So if you believe or agree with me, rather, for the ground rule to contribute, can I see your hands up? And the reason is this: if for learning is not only about when you hear, but also when you share. So learning happens from the perspective of hearing and perspective of sharing. Case in point, have you ever wondered why way back in tertiary institution, polytechnics, or universities that you attended, the people that seem to do well, depending on the faculty or the department, were more of the tutorial takers. I mean, those that were on organized tutorial, either for pay or for free, and or exam preparation classes, and all of you will attend, and fellow students in your class will come and teach and share and teach others. And you can always predict, because you've seen it, that the outliers, they tend to scare more, not necessarily because they're intelligent more than others. Most of the time, it's also because they are sharing. Now, this is the principle, especially when you are in a program like this that is short focus, 90 minutes to 120 minutes. You know, as an adult learner, wants to give you principles or ideas or concept to work with PAM that you can take and improve your professional or career, you know, impact or journey or result, right? When you are hearing something, that's the first level of learning, right? But what happens when you are sharing is that there are more dynamics in place. Before you share something, based on what you've heard, there is a conversation and an interaction going on with your mind, right, on what you've heard, what you've known, what you've been exposed to, what you've experienced, what you've done, what you've succeeded at, what you failed at. And those dynamics are working and churning, you know, finding where to plug in, where to flow out, where to join up, and then finding expression in what your mind thinks is ideal response to the question or to the situation or the context in which you are responding to. What this means is that every time you find people sharing, either at short bursts in workshops or seminars like this, or at long instances where they're taking a schedule, a class, or they're teaching something, they get to be able to master and learn more whatever they are sharing. So I've tried to explain that principle to make you understand that it's not really about personality or about being shy. As adult learners, when we're in classes like this, let us share. Learning is reinforced more when you share. Okay? It's reinforced more because you can even remember some of the things that you yourself contributed in class. Okay, so we said we would ask questions. We'll not only ask questions, we'll contribute. We'll not only contribute. Finally, the third ground rule is that we will note down key takeaways and key action points. So either in your digital notepad, on your laptop or your tabs, or physical notepads, I expect that we are all noting things to take away that will be action points. And the best way to say it is to put down that action point within the next 15 days, 2 weeks, and within the next 30 days, 1 month, so that there are key things that you can take away from this session and can just plug right away into your own journey and your own work reality to be able to get you desired result or start a journey of implementation. Okay, you know, so let's start right away quickly. So when we talk about redefining culture, and we talk about it in the context of being in a fragmented world, you know, culture is so powerful that it's important that we have this discourse, but while we look at it in the reality of the kind of world that we have, the kind of world that we have at different levels, the kind of world that we have at an individual level, as a professional, or as a business owner, or as an entrepreneur, or as a combination of all these that I've mentioned. That's number one. The context of the world that we have as an individual being part of a team. So the first level as an individual, the second level as a team or a group of people. So the team can be a team in a faith-based organization, a team in a charity organization or in an NGO, a team in an oil and gas organization, a team in a real estate organization, a team in a fintech organization, a team in an hospitality organization, a team in an healthcare organization. That's the context and that's the reality, right? The third level is the organization itself as an ecosystem of teams, right? So, right, I said, first of all, culture in the context of a fragmented world that affects us as an individual, at the level of teams that we belong to, at the level of organizations that we belong to, or we're affiliated with, or we founded, and lastly, at the level of industry that we belong to. So those 4 levels. And so when we look at, and I might take it a notch and add another level and say, at the level of the global level, which you can fragment, we can say regional, we can say continental, but it's all now a whole global village. So we say that what individual, team level, organization level, industry level, right, and global level. Okay. So I felt best to start this conversation looking at the context of fragmented world with a popular framework, okay, across these different levels that we are in and affect us, right? And I'm sure that we've heard of the VUCA effect. Recently, the D has been added to it to show that there is a progression in the context. But a fragmented world is characterized by volatility, high volatility. And you know, what does this mean, right? High volatility. You know, we look at everything that we're seeing, right, in day-to-day, you know, in day-to-day context that our businesses face, right? And we see also that apart from volatility, there is a lot of uncertainty. And I'll still explain what this means. You know, further to uncertainty, we see a lot of complexities in the things that come to play that determine business decisions, organizational strategy, organizational goals, organizational response to crises or to realities around them, right? We also witness lots of ambiguity, okay? And of course, we're now seeing lots of disruption, okay? Now, volatility in the context of the fact that the things that face businesses that you and I are involved in, and even our careers, right, are becoming more of the time touch and go. Let me give you an example. So we've seen how the civil war, or should I say civil war, or it's been called the civil war by some people. It's been touted as treasonous act by Putin, but the context in which we see a sort of uprising, right, in Russia in the past few days, and how there seems to be some mediation, you know, and some agreement coming to play. But we've seen how the war started with Ukraine by Russia is now having what we call a spillover effect. We've seen how within a twinkling of an eye, within weeks, within days, right, the instance of a war has caused ripple down effect across the board, in things that have to do with oil pricing, in things that have to do with loyalties, in things that have to do with trade agreements, in things that have to do with demand and supply, across different regions, from Asia to Africa, from Africa to Middle East, and we've also seen even policy, national policy development, and also foreign policy development. And all this, whether we like it or not, we are professionals and we are also in organizations, or we run organizations. The context of culture really is in the middle of all these things, and we'll get there. So volatility is very key, okay, for us to understand that we're in business spaces and business environment, and global spaces where we can sleep one day and the next day there is a pandemic that has spread across the globe and already shutting down businesses, also claiming lives. They're providing some opportunities for new kinds of businesses or new ways of working to spring up. But the volatility is not going to stop. It's like a moving train, right? That has come to stay, and it's either we learn how to survive and thrive with it, or we get swept away. Number two, uncertainty. Uncertainty in the context of, for instance, facing us more than ever before in Nigeria. So you could see in some organizations, you find out that their business strategy or their organization operating model is very dependent on the should I say, on the government policies and the fiscal policies and the security policies and the financial policies and the leanings of the government per time. And we see it more especially in Nigeria, where you would confirm how since December last year, many organizations have been careful about making some decisions, some calls, wanting to see what will come out of our period between our electoral process to our voting, to who will come out winning as president, to May 29 swearing in, and then the body language from the new government, right? Lots of uncertainty, okay? There are also levels of uncertainty even when there is a new government that's settled in, either for 4 years or for 8 years. Why? Because government regulations and policies, right, and compliance requirements sometimes makes business context, right, to be at alert, because there is lots of churn, lots of change, lots of uncertainty, sometimes with what government wants or where government is going, and how organizations should adequately respond towards that uncertainty. The third thing is complex, where the cases that we face in our businesses are never one size fits all. They're also never 2 + 2 = 4 most of the time. They are seldom 1 + 1 = 2 situations. There are situations that border on many factors at play. Those factors being at play and being interwoven and going through a sort of back-to-back exchange and domino effect, right? So you have all these things at play that make you understand that a situation might not be complicated, but it's just complex. Also, the after effect or resulting effect of strategic imperatives and strategic goals and decisions are also complex. As organizations grow and want to expand across geographical regions based on the requirement to adapt to the prevailing culture, language, norms, values, systems of host communities or local areas or countries or regions where these businesses are expanding to, brings lots of complexity into what we face. And it trickles down to all the hardcore. When I mean the hardcore, the technical things, contract drafting and setting, right? Employment laws, right? Labor laws to adapt to, and all. Interpretation of KYC and relevant customer management and compliance issues, right? Fiduciary responsibilities, right? Across different zones or areas or regions, right? And how that plays out. Even sometimes demands on a leadership mix, odd mix, right? Based by regulation, right? Of a country or a region or an industry that we are so complex, right? Ambiguous sometimes also because you find out that you might not be able to have all the information you need to make a decision, meaning that your data might not be perfect, but you need to make a decision, right? And these situations are not far and in between. They are constant, right? Meaning that it's given instances of 10, right? Maybe just 2 or 1 out of 10 instances is when you have full picture, when you have perfect information, meaning everything you need to make a decision. When you have 100% guidelines, right? Very few times. But guess what? You would 8 out of 10 times be faced with ambiguity, right? There will be an element of not really sure or being in the dark about some things, but you just trying to leverage data enough, fact enough, leverage information enough, and then see trust in advisors, trust in colleagues, trust in experiences, trust in exposure, trust in maybe scenario planning, trust in future contexts that have been shared or what you feel the trend is, and then make a leap of faith. Organizations are doing this every day. Organizations are making M&A calls, that's mega and acquisition calls. Organizations are making buyout calls with still never perfect information, right? And lots of ambiguity, but just hoping for the best. Angel investors are making investments in startups, right? You have venture capitalists and also private equity firms also making investment and getting equity in young organizations growing. You have also those startups and those organizations trading off, right? Investment for equity, right? And trying to evaluate their organizations and see, what they feel that they can give away and the level of control or ownership they can give away. Hoping that their organization succeeds, right? In the near future. Still very ambiguous. If you probably ask all the unicorns, every organization that has made unicorn today, that your first 2 or 3 years, were you clear? Ambiguity, 0. Was there perfect clarity that you would be a unicorn? They will say, oh, maybe somewhere was to build a great organization, but did we feel that we're going to be a unicorn in so and so years and so on? No, right? Did our journey and being hardworking and committing to our focus along the way prepare us to become a unicorn at so and so time? The answer would be yes. But were we perfectly sure? The answer would be no. But did we feel that even though it was ambiguous, our success story or profile, even though we had it, right, in best as it is, we still seem ambiguous because we still didn't know what the future would hold. We could only predict and try and go and stay in that future that we have predicted so that we're ready for it. Ambiguity. But that didn't stop us from starting this organization. That didn't stop investors from making investment in this organization. Lots of ambiguity going on. And of course, disruption and digitalization. So organizations now facing self-disruption, facing digitalization, facing consumer needs that are affecting how they do business, how they develop products, how they develop service offerings, how they position their product and service offerings, how they evolve or transition their product or their service offerings, how they maintain their product or their service, how they upgrade their product or their service offerings. Digitalization and disruption affecting all these things in the value chain. So this provides for me the perfect framework to discuss the concept of a fragmented world. That a world that many things that we do business in, that we do career in, is fragmented, is not perfect, right? Has many things going on at the same time, has many onions being thrown up and things moving at the speed of light, transition happening, okay? You want to get a phone now, popular brand Samsung. You know the turn at which Samsung keeps upgrading models, just slight difference, either size, camera feature, screen dimension, either touch, finger touch, or iris, or whatever, right? Just little. You buy a Samsung phone this year, right? By next day, either it got damaged, or maybe you gift it out, or you feel you want to upgrade, and or you are told already that the phone you bought 12 months ago cannot get original support. You are told that, hey, if it's the screen you want to replace, they give you two kinds of prices. They tell you, if you want to get original screen replacement, this is it. If you want to get the one that is not the original replacement, even at the Samsung support centers, you are told that, okay? So you are even told sometimes, look, don't let it deceive you. You can go to anybody that can come and bamboozle you, but we're here to tell you that there is no more long-term support for this phone, for this gadget. And you're wondering, hey, gone are the days we could use Nokia phones for 3-4 years. Gone are the days we could use some kind of phones, BlackBerry and all those ones for a long time. Now the change of things that our products are offering are at the speed of light. So disruption happening, affecting us. That's our reality. And I've said there that, you know, the problems that we face in our organization, they're really simple, like I've explained, and I've taken time. We operate in complex environment, right? And as HR professionals and leaders, we are bombarded with different and unfamiliar challenges happening every day. If somebody relates with this, and you just do a high five or do a check-in on the chat box, it's more important than ever that organizations are able to move swiftly in spotting and tackling emerging challenges while being responsive in real time to the everyday citizen, right? Because really, citizens in context of consumers or clients and all, right? It is also key that organizations understand the key role that cultural product plays in driving an organization forward or backward. So in everything that I've explained, that is the reality that businesses, your organizations, your firms, play, because we know that our organization and our businesses, they are not in Mars, right? They're not in Jupiter, they're not in Neptune. They're here, and they are involved and within and around all the things I've shared around VUCA. They are around within the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, the ambiguity, the disruption, and the digitalization. So you then wonder why corporate culture, which is very key, would not be affected by the realities that your businesses and your organizations face are involved in. So you can write this down that if you're an HR professional and you attempt to address corporate culture issues without understanding the macro and the micro implications, you would already be implementing a project that is dead on arrival, DOA. There's no better way that I can say that. Because what you'll be trying to do is to address a culture issues within an organization, but not taking context of the influence the ecosystem of that organization has on the organization. Attempting not to understand and factor macro and micro dependent, right, which VUCA will make you understand, right, in being able to reimagine, in being able to reinvent, in being able to acculturate, whatever term we want to use, but being able to try to get on the journey of building a desired healthy culture within your organization. Not factoring your macro and micro elements, right, is like trying to plant a seed, right, grow something, right, and you want to get the right soil, okay, but you go to, so it's like you know that the right soil is important. You know that you need to get fertilizers and manures that are very key. You know that the right weather at the right time in the right season will help you, okay? But this is what you've done. You are just focusing on wanting to do what? Wanting to get to grow your whatever you want to grow. And what you've done is that you've just gone to get your manure ready, right? Plug into get your seed, get your seed ready, plug into the ground, and not caring if it's the right season or not. You've also not bothered to ask yourself how the environment affects the land. It means that in Benue, Jos, there are some crops or some plants that will thrive better, right, because of the ecosystem in that place, better than planting in Lagos, Ibejuleke, or in Ibadan. Okay, but you've discounted all that. You focused on the fact that you just want to build, you just want to plant, and you want to what? You want to be able to grow something. Okay, that is similar to what I've tried to explain, not factoring your macro and your micro elements in wanting to build or wanting to implement or wanting to steer the organization in the right direction to having a healthy culture. Okay, all right. Let me quickly stop it. Comments, questions. You know our ground rules, right? We ask questions, we contribute, we make comments. We are writing down our own personal takeaways so that we can have action plans. All right, so I'll take 2 questions or 2 comments quickly. There was someone raising up their hand earlier, but I think the hand dropped. Okay. He was
I think,
he was saying
I
it was
think they were responding to your request for engagement.
Then I've seen something. I saw a question by
Tommy. Is there in the chat box?
Tommy Oni. Yes. It's interesting when mentors show up in your masterclass, you start wondering what's happening. And I hope he's not here. I hope he has logged off. Okay. Not for anything, but just because no matter how senior you are, and this is a chipping, I can't help it. I'm a mentor at heart, right? So no matter how much you rise in career, you would always have people that you look up to. Like someone illustrated it by saying that even if you get up 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the night and you get on the road and you are driving, at some point, it's just a matter of time, but at some point, you'll see a car ahead of you. Even if you drive for 1 hour, 30 minutes, at some point, you will see a car ahead of you. Either they come ahead of you by overtaking you, but you will see a car ahead of you, which tells you that, so let me answer his question. Let me answer Tommy Oni's question. So he's asking that in the world of uncertain business economics and realities, the emergence of LGBTQ and inclusiveness and so on and on. Okay, so Joe, Tommy Oni it's a comment, not a question, because I can't see. All right, so let's move.
Yes. It was just contributing. It was a contribution.
Yeah, right. And let me quickly touch on the absolutely. So let me give an example. We always have, obviously, what you all know, onboarding activities for new hires, right, in our organization, right? Like we all do, okay? And then some time ago, I think 2 weeks ago, so for us during that 1 week for us, right? There's always a schedule on the timetable that is mentoring time with me, right? So I always take two sessions. Sometimes I split them, sometimes I combine them depending on my work timing. I take a great place to work mandate because firm-wide we're on a great place to work mandate, and we while everybody in-house already an existing employee understand why we're introducing some policies, we're embedding some things, we're going through digitalization and all that. For us right away, when you're resuming with us, we take you through a great place to work vision, so that as you're joining us, you understand why we are transforming to become a great place to work. You understand why it's more than, for us, it's more than getting an accreditation. You understand why, first of all, it's even about the soul for us, becoming, living, and having the DNA of a great place to work. So I don't delegate that session, right? It doesn't matter even if you have everybody at entry level, I don't delegate the session because as a leader, I understand the imperative of those sessions. I don't delegate it to anybody on my team. I take the session, right? Almost once in 2 months, okay? Every time I take the session. And then they have a what they call a mentoring session with EP&T. Basically not coaching, mentoring, meaning that I'm just meant to share how people can succeed in their careers within the organization and all those things and all, right? And 2 weeks ago, so we had people that were, and telling you about culture, because this is, imagine this is a culture class, right? We had people that were, we had like 3 generations within a cohort, right? We had people by age that you were not millennials, were baby boomers. So we have 2 roles that came in as business leaders, right? That were baby boomers, right? No, sorry. no, not baby one, Generation X, right? Right? Yeah, millennials, we have Gen Z, we have millennials, and then we have Gen X. Yeah, okay. So they were very elderly, right? Having like 25, 30 years work experience, right? Then we had people that were millennials, right? Having like 15, 17 years experience. And then we had people that were Gen Zs, right? Right. So Gens, or what you call, will I call them Gen Zs? Will I even call Generation Alpha? Because I think the age range would be about 21, 22. Okay. Right. So depending on the different categories that people put, right, and where you feel they're from. So imagine those 8 brackets. And I was talking about, great place to work, and why we had some policies on inclusiveness and on diversity and all that and stuff. And somebody asked me, not writing it openly in the session, was even a lawyer, asked me that, okay, understanding this and this and this, what's our stand on LGBTQ and the realities of inclusiveness, just as how Ogatomi has put it here. And guess what? Immediately, different reactions from the 3 generations. So quickly, can somebody, I'll have a gift for you that I'll send to you. Can you tell me what you think that each generation was the reaction to that kind of, so let me give you context. A young, bold person asking me that kind of question, right? In a new employee onboarding session, where it's assumed you don't put your foot, mouth, you're careful, because you're a new staff, you're meant to make right impression, right? And you're still even in onboarding and induction class, right? 3 reactions to his question from the different generations. So can you guess what the reactions were from each? Who wants to go? Quickly. This is a case study, quickly. A culture case study, right? Quickly. I'll call names. So I can see someone called Yemi. Yemi, please, could you share what you think was the reaction from each of the generations? Okay, Yemi is not here.
I'd like to go, sir.
Hello. Hi,
okay, please. Yes, okay, Yemi, please.
Okay, I think the Gen Zs wouldn't have had any reactions at all.
Okay.
Yes, then the older, millennials, maybe look at him in a funny manner or be like, or the general expression, or something like that. Yeah, then so I guess that's how I know.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. So try it a lot. Yeah. So that we quickly move on. So guess what? So the Gen Zs were like even hailing. It was like person bold enough to answer. It was as if that kind of question was in the minds of all the Gen Zs, right? And it was as if finally one of us asked, right? So it was like, correct, right? Like, attaboy, right? Good one. You understand, right? So hailing, right? The millennials in the room, in the conference room, where you could just say neutral, right? They were, because they were in their late 30s, and all. So late 30s and early 40s, right? So, a bit not surprised, not shocked, right? Just neutral, right? So not hailing Hida, right? The Gen Zs were the ones really, really hailing and laughing and nice one, and nothing that, yes, sir, I second that, right? That they want to hear my response. Well, the older people, in fact, one of them had to talk, right? And say, like, what kind of question is that? And said something like this: we don't ask that kind of question in this context, right? Is way out of line. You understand? I'm serious, way out of line. It's not acceptable. And I allowed her to go. And of course, the other, I saw on their face that they were aligned with what she was saying. Okay. She had felt that, oh, as a new business leader in the organization, she could quickly put that across and show that, and when she had finished, so I first of all addressed them, the older people, and said, the younger ones are bolder, the younger ones are more expressive, the older ones actually will ask more questions, the younger ones will not lock up even when they don't know answers to things, right? Rather than the older ones who will feel ashamed that they don't have answers or just assume, okay? And that based on that, it is a strength for the older generation. And no matter how awkward the questions may be, right? We are building a culture where people can express themselves. And even if something has been wrongly expressed, or if something is wrong, in the context of trying to give feedback or to give a different perspective from where the person is coming from, there is respect and there's concern enough to be able to share, but are not shut down, right? And that also, for the older person, I understand our own concern, and I will share how I understand that concern, right? And then balance it. And so this is what I did. I just shared with, and so this culture, so this really, like, I can't be taking this kind of masterclass and just going theory. This is practical. And then I told the guy that there are two responses to LGBTQ in Nigerian context. Know that I've come from, so probably many of you are wondering, is talking of culture, why is it coming from FUCAD and all? You now see where I'm coming from, right? Now, this is the response, two kinds of response within the Nigerian ecosystem, work, business ecosystem, society and all, to LGBTQ, right? As regards also the corporate culture, right? Number one, inclusiveness, right? For LGBTQ and all, two responses. So I told him there is the overt and there is the covert response, right? And that the overt response is, number one, the compliance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There is no organization in Nigeria that will come out overtly and tell you that they are overtly supporting or engaging inclusivity, right, for the LGBT community. In fact, there has been the different levels of adoption. There's awareness, right? There's engagement. There's even been no engagement. Nothing that at the national level or at the constitutional level say, oh, we are aware that there are LGBT communities. There's awareness, but it stops there. The Constitution backs what the response our nation has, right, towards the context of LGBTQ. Okay? And no organization will overtly, right, building inclusive culture or not, come and push, right? For organizations in other countries to be able to start having LGBTQ as part of their inclusiveness agenda, they had to take it up from a constitutional perspective. If not, they'll be going against the law, right? So I said that is the overt response. And that you cannot, what I call First and Second Testament. So I always call Agile Labor Law Old Testament. I call your employee or HR or people policy New Testament, right? Because my faith is a Christian, so I use that, right? And it's just trying to explain that there's a balance, okay? Okay, while that balance is actually also regulated or meant to be regulated by the Constitution. Because in that three-ladder level, you cannot have an HR or people policy that flouts context really within your, or that is contextual within your labor policy, Labor Act, and then the Labor Act contradicting the Constitution. It's not, that is not the process, right? The Labor Act will trickle down from the Constitution. And whatever you are meant to have as standards of people practice is meant to be cascaded from the Labor Act, and there is minimum, meaning you now even add to it. So if Labor Act is saying that 3 months, 90 days maternity leave, you can do 120 days. You've met the Labor Act, but you've done more as benefit, right? And all. That is how it's meant to be. I'm not saying that there are no thwarts here and there. So I explained to him, and I just said, but that there is the covert response. The covert response is that organizations have found a way to give an air and a feel, right, that they can be inclusive towards the LGBT community. Okay, it's covered. It's not, and it's covered because from different, maybe the tone set by the leaders of the organization. For some, so you see context of cross-dressing, you see context of innuendos here and there that from leaders of some organizations that the LGBT community will feel comfortable and feel and understand that there might be some covert inclusive allowances, right, if they work for such organizations. Okay? But it's covered in our own Nigerian context, right? It's also covered, even though many organizations, startups, and all have to fill questionnaires when they are getting funding from American organizations or from European organizations. And they have to, without saying that they are going to break the law or go against the Constitution, they have to show investors many times that they are not going to be necessarily against LGBT community, even if they don't come out overtly to be what? To be pro-LGBT community. Do you understand? I know because I advise several organizations, right, that are either startups, either fintechs, and all. As an organization, I've been advising on people since when they started their Series A funding. They are now in their Series B plus funding. So I know many of these things, and there are times when there are direct questions from investors and CEOs and co-founders are chasing me. How do we answer this question? You've already shown us. We too know, right? There is even a prison, imprisonment reality that affects what? That affects if we overtly come to some, or individual or institutions, right? So how do we technically or tactically word, and they actually even don't expect us to come out to say we are going to break the law, right? Because we are going to get funded. Are we going to break the law that will make the organization effectively in jeopardy? But guess what? We know that they are also not expecting us to appear as we are not going to be acceptable, we are not going to work. So how do we covertly not get into, we can show ourselves that, we want this funding, right? And we can show ourselves as, okay, amenable to this funding, but where we don't break the law, right? So that was my answering to the young man, taking patience, and the Gen Zs, the millennials were very appreciative, as well as also even the older generation. Okay, JO is raising his hand. Let me take his question. I like that. Joe,
Okay,
please.
so I was trying to share that, interestingly, this is a very subtle and sensitive issue. There are organizations that are currently bedeviled by it, and they are actually also taking their time in dealing with it, as the case may be.
Yeah.
So there are some institutions that are not too sure how to progress with it. And while there are some institutions that are very forward on their stand about it. Now, those who, from history and from comments we've received, who are very forward, appear to still have cultural issues internally, because there are, our environment here, we have a mix of individuals. The later generation are struggling with dilution of values, while the younger generations cannot understand why those people will not be respected and allowed to be themselves, as the case may be. So I'm sure it will be interesting to see how this pans out over time, as more information, more conversations, more discourse around it, and it emerges into a clearer picture for the HR community to be able to advise their leadership on how to proceed with it.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. I can read very well with this. Anybody else wants to build on what Jill said, or share your own perspective, or ask questions as well? But Jill, you are so spot on. I cannot even add to your insight. Anybody else quickly? Okay, so let's just quickly move, right? So I've said there that corporate, culture is DNA. How many of you agree? If you don't agree, then we can have a conversation. But do you agree that culture is DNA? And you know what DNA is? DNA means that the makeup, right? DNA is the makeup. Culture is DNA. Culture is what? Culture is DNA. Okay? DNA is the makeup of an organization. And Peter Johnson said, culture is so powerful that Peter Johnson told us it will eat strategy for what? For breakfast. It means that the best laid strategy we might have, right? Like I said, look at you use your SWOT analysis, you use your PESO analysis, you use all the different strategy tools to be able to build, a great strategy framework for your organization, and you want to execute the strategy. Number one, even execution is a culture, right? Can be so what I mean is, let me rephrase it, right? Execution, right, can be a culture that you have as an organization or you don't have. Okay, so, and that is why you can have the best of strategy, right? If 2 layers, people, leaders, and managers who will execute those strategy, right? Or that strategy do not have the drive, the capacity, the capabilities to execute, the strategy will be a waste, right? But beyond that, sometimes individuals, teams have capability, technical, functional, right? Capacity, leadership, managerial capacity to execute. But the prevailing culture in the organization might hinder them executing at all, or the level of their execution. Okay, and you see this obviously. One of the giveaways of an execution culture in an organization is when digital transformation needs to happen in an organization. That's when you know, because the capability for execution is so huge, right? That it needs to be embedded as a culture in an organization, right? Beyond individuals that are professionals or teams of experts. Why? it is that time when an organization needs to actually have digital, they need to digitalize and transform. That's where you will know, really, right? If they built execution as one of their cultural, strength and into their DNA, because you might want to raise your hand. Digital transformation and adoption can frustrate any organization. There is a level of stay with itness. There's a level of grit. There's a lot of painstakingness. There's a level of, long suffering. There's a level of agility. There's a level of flexibility. There are so many things that will stay with an organization because, digitalization is about technology and it's new, right? Right? It's about transforming from old to new, right? So, for instance, we want to have an optional-wide enterprise resource platform, ERP change. Welcome. We'll see really the maturity curve of what of execution, the capability of execution in your culture beyond that just residing in individual leaders or managers. Okay, so culture is so powerful that it will fit strategy for breakfast. Also, Joe, please get ready. We need to share people into groups now. Also, just as society has a culture, so as an organization culture has been called corporate soul, as far back as 1985. So as far back as about 1985, it'll be about 38 years ago, thereabout. Singh and Paul have researched, right, that the spirit and ethos that percolate all aspects of organizational behavior and like societal culture, they cannot be seen directly, right? That culture can be called corporate soul. It has been inferred by peeling out the most external, tangible, and hence visible shifts of an organization to the most central and invisible values and assumptions regarding how and why people work and relate with each other within an organization. So I have a quick, you can screenshot this. Let me take it. You can screenshot this this because you're going to need it for your discussion, and where we're going to move to group discussion. I think that the host can help, the administrator can help, depending on how many people we have.
How many groups should we set up? 3?
How many people do we have now?
About 12.
Okay, if you have 12 people, let's quickly do let's do 3 groups. 3 groups quickly, right? So number one, do you think, based on this slide, that culture by Singh and Paul is called corporate soul? Do you think corporate culture, is the soul of an organization? Secondly, if you think so, right, and you share, or if you don't think so, whatever your thoughts are, or either yes or no to one, you can share your thoughts within your group, right, for 10 minutes. And I'm sure that the administrator will split us into groups, so that will be about 4 each in our group. You would select someone who will be like a group representative to share your thoughts, your different summaries, your different exchanges, the summarized version with us once we come back after 10 minutes. All right, Joe, over to you.
Okay, the groups have been created and people have been assigned automatically. They should click and join.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Guys, let's move. So 10 minutes, come back, yes.
We still have Onome, Akeem, Stephen. They've not been able to join the groups. Okay. Kings and Stephen are still pending.
I don't know what happened. Hello. Good morning. I don't know what.
We can hear you.
Good morning. I clicked join, but for some reason I'm not able to join. I don't know what I did wrong. I'm doing wrong.
Okay, so let me see if I can assist. Let's look for you and see if I can add you directly.
All right, so what team is going first?
So we had just 2 teams that worked. One of the teams could not discuss at all. Network issues, I suspect. But I think a few of them in the other teams were able to have some conversation. Maybe they would like to share.
Okay, so what team is that, guys? I can't hear. I think, is anybody taking? Did you guys not delegate someone for your team? Quickly. Time is going. We quickly
Sorry,
need
sir,
to.
for what team? For what team? Is it team 2?
Just go on ahead and take. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So my name is Esther Konde, and in our group, what we discussed is that truly culture is the soul of any organization. And from my colleagues in the group, we realized that actually the layman understands that culture is a way of life. And if culture is a way of life and is actually replicated in any organization, it is culture that actually sets any organization apart and gives the identity to any organization. So what is acceptable in a particular organization might not be acceptable in another organization. Why? Because their culture is an embodiment of their values, their beliefs, and it actually influences their processes, the policies that they will come up with as an organization, the strategy on how to actually achieve their goals and objectives. So if you remove culture from any organization, it's difficult to place the organization and say, this is what they stand for. It is culture that helps an organization to actually, it is culture that puts them in check as an organization, because they know that, oh, if this is our culture, if this is what we stand for, our beliefs, it should actually play out in our strategies, how we relate with our employees, how we relate with other partners outside the organization. So we feel that, yes, culture is actually the soul of any organization. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Can we have the other? Amazing. Can we have the other group and then we'll quickly move?
I think that's the only group that deliberated.
Okay, so based on that, let's move. Let me share my screen. Share. All right. So let's quickly move so that I can cover the things I need to cover, right? So how do you bring up? We're talking about reimagine culture. So how do you reimagine? Because you don't reimagine to not have a goal. The goal will be to how do you get to be part of building a great culture? How do you facilitate building a great culture? How do you lead building a great culture? How do you advise building a great culture? How do you shape building a great culture, right? And over the years, I've read research, read data, read my experience. I'm advising boards as a senior management staff, advising C-level, working with peers, also being involved directly as a business leader, shaping culture in organizations myself. I've come to understand that there are two critical anchors to building a great culture, right? I know there are different models, there are different frameworks, but the how. So I've told you the context of everything you're facing as in the context of an organization, and how everything that is macro and micro affects really the response, the cultural response, corporate cultural response of an organization. And then I've also shown you as well how important culture is, right, to the sustainability or success of an organization, right? So how do we build good culture? I've come to understand that great cultures are built when organization can effectively combine the why, and the why and the why, the reason, right, and the people that drive the why, the resource that drives the why. When you're able to combine the purpose, that's the why, the focus, right, and then you're able to combine the people that drive the why, it will be easier. I'm not saying it will be easy. I'm using the word easier to commence a journey or sustain a journey of building a great culture. And I've used the purpose plus people matrix, culture metrics, which is an IP for me, right, to be able to explain what I mean. In the context of being people focused and being purpose focused, there are 4 scenarios or 4 boxes that plays out. You have organizations that can be very, very purpose centric and deficient on on people centric, right? You find such organizations to be very controlling. Such organizations, the primary focus in what is good for the business. Culture is then permeated from a cohesive take it or leave it philosophy. Approach to culture is usually commanding and demanding. Input from employees rarely sought in building or validating desired culture. Leaders do not take accountability for culture. There is a prevalence of do what we say and not what we do. All right. The second bucket is a compromising culture, right? So if I have a culture that is very people-centric, but it's almost, if the same people that you can say, oh, people-centric and all that, they involve their people, they listen to them, you do town hall meetings, you actually take action on the town hall meetings. The town hall meetings are not ood and ang. You listen to everybody, you take the town hall, but there is now no stir or pilot. It's not strong to be able to really aggregate what seems to be everybody and everybody's needs, but also now be able to balance the individualism with what is for the collective, and then use your true north as an organization, which is your purpose, to really guide the flow. In such organizations, and I've worked in such organizations, right, that you will ask the chief exec, really, it's where are we going in the next 5 years, or what are your thoughts in the next 10 years? It's okay for an organization not to get to where they are going, right? But it's absolutely unacceptable for a chief exec to actually tell you, oh, they don't know, or they are not sure. But there are organizations like that. There are organizations that takes one day at a time. There are organizations that takes reactive response once at a time, right? There are organizations that are hustlers, that are not proper institutions. Many of those organizations can be very compromising because they just need people to stay and to feel happy. What you as an HR practitioner, as a leader in this masterclass, you understand that making people feel happy is just one wing. It takes two wings to fly. You need balance, right? And if you're not in compromising culture, probably how can we ensure we don't rock the boat? We don't make this person unhappy. We don't make that person unhappy. It now becomes, there is actually no, what does the purpose of the organization have to do with the decisions we make, irrespective of who the decision affects. So you find them that they end up actually compromising on purpose of value. You find somebody that is a superstar breaks some compliance policy or something, and all the purpose that we will be a top organization, right? That we will try within our best to be beyond reproach. We want to be, we might not be the number one in the industry, but we want to be known to be the substitute. That some organizations are for the big ones, when some high-paying clients might not want to use the big ones, right? Or they might want substitutes who want to be there, right? When the big ones are dropping the balls, we want to be the ones that are being asked to clear up the mess. There are some organizations, they position their purpose, their strategy for that, right? But you find out that there are some organizations, there's nothing. And then when it seems as if there should be a boundary, right? Or hard line on the stance that the organization will take, guided by its purpose, it becomes compromising when the needs of individuals or the people are put beyond the needs of the organization, right? So you cannot have, so you cannot have a culture that is very controlling. You can also have a culture that is compromised, right? Approach to culture is usually consistent because it's very individual based, so it's very consistent, right? I knew someone that a chief executive I was advising that knew that he had not treated his people so well, existing people so well, right? And then it was when another staff was resuming that, so that it would not cause any rancor, he went and quickly increased the pecs of few of the existing ones, just because this person coming in had some pecs where he was coming from, and I negotiated. He wasn't aware of anything going on internally anyway. Negotiated, but the CEO felt that to rock the boat, let me quickly. What the person should have done, based on just a purpose of being a good organization, purpose of caring, purpose of responding, listening to the organization, but then having to quickly do it, something that is very erratic and unsustainable, just because one other person is coming in and has negotiated their own pay, okay, or their own pecs, right? You have things like that are inconsistent, you know, individualization is upheld over institutionalization. Leaders tend to be erratic in display of core values and unpredictable. There is a silent abdication of culture ownership. Then you have condoning culture. Condoning culture is low, it's not people-centric, it's not purpose-centric. It's a anything goes kind of culture, right? It's a culture, there is no intentionality about culture. Leaders allow the organization to flow with anything that feels good. Anything can be condoned, especially if talent or teams can be covered by internal godfathers or mothers. Corporate conscience is very low, and leaders don't lose sleep on building the right culture. They don't lose sleep on building the right culture. This is another scenario, right? And then the fourth one is a caring culture, where focus is primarily on how can we create a synergy between business needs and what brings out the best in our people. Approach to culture is usually collaborative. Leadership culture, actively and visibly, they are impact-minded in shaping culture. They walk the talk. Corporate conscience is very strong. You know, now I've said that any organization can be in any of these boxes at any time, right? So my question to you is that where do you see your organization? It is possible for an organization to change its status and move from one box to another. It takes work to achieve a caring culture. It takes more work to sustain it. Irrespective of positive or negative prevalence, leadership culture, everyone else are enabling, supporting, complying, and contributing. Everybody else. And that is what you HR people, you know, the Gen Z slang, I can't key myself. The key spelled as K-E-E. I can't come and key myself. The truth is that you can't come and key yourself if you're in that HR space, even if business leaders want to make you feel that when they abdicate, right? The truth is that if you're a business leader, right, you're one of the leaders really in that organization and you're in HR, of course, the buck also stops with you and your leaders' colleagues, right? But if you're not really so much in leadership, right, and you're just at the junior middle level, you are not actually shaping. You should know where you are. You are enabling, you are supporting, you are complying, of course, lead by example. So leading by example doesn't mean you are shaping, right? You are complying and you are contributing, right? You are influencing peer, yes, as well, but the shaping is on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. That is a fundamental leadership principle. Everything rises and falls on leadership, including culture, okay? So this is the message you should preach in a respectful, subtle, firm way, or call me to come and tell your business leaders. I'll come and tell them, right? That's one you can hide behind that. You're not the one that said it though, but I can look them in the face. Jill can look them in the face. Right? You can look them in the face and say that the buck stops with you. Yes, these are the responsibilities of different levels and data of stuff, but you as leaders have everything. You are contributing, you are complying, you are supporting, you are enabling, and you are shaping. And this is how we need to begin to reimagine, because why? In the VUCA reality that organizations will go through, okay, the VUCA reality that organizations go through, and it's within our ecosystem, it's important how leaders are holding up in how they respond purpose issues or respond to people issues, right? It's important how during crises, during growth, during high, turnover experience of the organization, during compliance issues, right? During expansion, all those things, it's important how leaders, they're walking the walk, they're talking the talk, what they say, how the body language, everything shows an alignment with the purpose of the organization. And also their relationship, their mindset, their point of view about their people, the policies and practices that they are approving, they're sanctioning, that they are exemplifying, shows also people centricity, right? And that is how whatever culture. So this masterclass is not about to tell you, oh, culture, dress down, don't dress down on Fridays. No, that's not the fundamental. This is the fundamental. And the question is that I will leave is that how then do I want to have a caring organization, right? Balancing purpose, the needs of the organization, people, the needs of the employees, right? How do I want to have a caring organization? So if then you then now start to build on different things to have a caring organization, if you believe that one of the things about it is that you want to have a merit-driven culture, and what policies can support that, what practices can support that, because you feel that caring for your staff is actually really, really those that are working hard or those that are exemplary, they are rewarded, they are recognized, right? People that need to improve, part of care is to show them that you are slacking in this area and you need to pull your weight. And this is the process in which the organization will support you to pull your weight, right? That's how it's okay. Those that actually need to be shipped out or stuff, there's care in how it's done, right? It's true that you might not fit what we have now for now, but this shipping out might just be to push you into a zone where an alternative zone where you might thrive, and there'll be a human face to it in how we help you manage that transition, even though it will be undesired for you. Nobody likes to lose their job and all that stuff and all. But in the different contexts or states of where an employee is in their employee life cycle in an organization or your people, caring enough for them so that the policies and practices you're going to build on it, right? On that mindset, on this framework of being a caring organization, right? And your culture being caring, right? Caring for the 360-degree experience of your employees, right? And your people, you know. So you need to ask yourself, what then do we need to do? That's why I said that the third part of our rule is that, you know, you have to write down to-dos. You have to write down action points, 15 days, 2 weeks. Between 2 weeks, the one I will put in place between 2 weeks, the one I'll put in place by 30 days, right? And I will challenge that one of the ones you should start putting in place between 2 weeks is, what does a caring culture based on the anchors of this framework, the purpose plus people culture framework or metrics, what does it mean to us in our own organization, in our own industry, right? How can we reflect it and how can we start that journey? Or if we've been doing things that are showing that we have a caring culture, how can we sustain, maintain, you know, and ensure that we are proactive in sustaining that culture? That is where I think that you can start in your journey of doing what? Your journey of either commencing, kickstarting, or sustaining your desire to have a great culture. So for me, Tayo Patel, TO, is saying that a great culture is when your purpose and your people focus are aligned, right? And you ensure that the balance of both is what drives your recipe for building your desired culture. So anything can then come into it. If really dress down is a reflection of caring, those are just visible. That you know, as a culture is also DNA, right? Then fine. What if dress down, that's his predominant, dress down is not sensitive to the predominant people in a particular location? What of it? Then that's not caring, right? So it means that you cannot just copy and paste other things that you see people doing, right? If you see people doing things that you need to copy, but you can copy it because it aligns with your purpose, focus, and your people focus, then by all means. But before you copy, you need to ask the question. For us to copy, does it align with our people focus? Does it align with our purpose focus? If it's a yes, yes. If it's a yes, no, you know what to do, right? So I said, you have a design culture, you have a culture that is compared to, and in that saying, okay, what does a caring culture represent? I wanted to leave you with another framework, right? So that it helps you. Note that practices and policies that you build are based on, right, fundamentals. So like I said, this is not about the fact that call yourself first names, use initials. All those ones are all does it work for you? Does it not work for you? Some organizations, and your purpose and people question we ask. Some of them have adopted first name basis. But the truth is that if you look at our people and purpose focus, it might not really be ideal. While some people have insisted on the formality, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so. But if you look at their purpose and people focus, right? That level of formality might be at variance, right, with the kind of culture they say they want to build. So is your culture compassionate? You want to build a caring culture? I've used the acronym for care. Is it compassionate? And you know, compassion, right? Does it have the we say HR, that there is the H, the human in HR. Does it think about people, what's good for your people? Does it think about what your people need? Does it think for your people? Does it meet their needs? Does it attempt to meet their needs even before their needs are met, right? It's a culture agile, right? That's a caring culture. Caring culture is compassionate. Caring culture is it responsible? Meaning that can employees depend on your culture? This is what I mean. Can employees know that if this happens in my organization, this will not, so this is what the response will be, right? We are not sure, we are not sure what the response will be, but how? If fraud happens in my organization, this is what it doesn't matter, even if it's the MD, this is what will happen. If someone tries to blackmail a staff of my organization or set, this is what will happen, right? But you are sure and you can, what do you mean by responsibility? If you say a 10-year-old is responsible or an adult is responsible, it means that there are different drivers that can make you predict that in scenarios or circumstances, there will be a behavioral response by that 9-year-old or that 40-year-old or that 45-year-old that will tell you that that person is a responsible person. That person has responsible is from 2 words, response and ability, right? So that person has the ability to respond, right, to in the desired and appropriate manner to a situation, right? So you have a caring culture. Is it engaging, right? Agility is different from engaging. Agility is about, is it proactive? Is it very why they go hand in hand, they're a bit different. Agile, right? Is it just strict? Because you can engage, you can get feedback, you can get input, and you do nothing with it, right? Yeah. But agility means that there is momentum, right? You can engage and there is no momentum. Agility means that like I said, the ecosystem is being engaged. The drivers of internal culture are aware and they're showing that awareness, right? And then, of course, you engage. Engagement, very key, right? Because the engagement that you know the changing needs of your people. And of course, you are continuously engaging with your purpose, right? There are different organizations that the purpose they set out with, after 10 or 20 years, change at some point, right? Or was adapted, or was actually, so there are different things, but as long as a culture would be a caring culture, right? If a culture would be a caring culture, it needs to be engaging its people regularly on a collaborative, creative basis. Okay. I got this from Jo. He shared with me some days ago, and it's interesting to see how the research was done. An analysis of 600 Glassdoor reviews from 2020 to 2021, showing how men and women experience corporate culture differently. So this has many things. Context of corporate culture feedback, right? The lenses in which people experience corporate culture, but it also details some data on diversity, right? And specifically as it affects gender, right? So diversity in that case, and they have looked at 2 genders, male and female gender, men and women, and tells us the vertical axis shows the percentage of women who mentioned a topic, right, in their reviews, and the horizontal axis measures relative sentiment, or how much more or less positive women talked about these themes compared, right, with men, right? So you see that what has happened is this, okay? You see that topics that women discuss more negatively to your left, down. Topics that women discuss more positively to your right, down. You see also the capturing on the vertical percentage of women who mention topic in Glassdoor reviews. So that about 10% mentioning things around technology, SD, PEX, job security, performance strategy, innovation goals, you know, and all that. Yeah. So about 20% toxic culture, mentioning health and being, mentioning collaboration, right? About 30% mentioning leadership and development, about 35% mentioning leadership, about 40% mentioning work-life balance, about let's say 48% mentioning compensation and benefit. And then we look at the data that tells us, so we've looked at the percentage mentioning, but then when those discussions are going on, are those discussions on the positivity or are those discussions on the negativity, right? So you see that, right, those discussions, right, you see that more are on negativity, right? You see strategy, you see job security, PEX, communication, honesty, collaboration, agility, technology, colleagues, toxic culture, all on negative, and toxic culture very high, right? And then you see some things on discuss on positivity, global issues, global opportunities, goals, innovation, helping, learning and development, right? You know, so guess what? And then leadership, you know, not well, still moving to the curve of negativity, but maybe not as negative as toxic culture, not as negative as colleague or agility, still moving near a bit towards positivity, but not entirely crossing that line of positivity, right? Work-life balance to a bit far away. Compensation and benefit still giving us data that supports that women, you know, are not paid equitably as much as men. That you can have a man and a woman, male and female, in similar roles, doing similar jobs, all the context being similar, working in the same organization, and not earning the same pay. Competition just based on gender, but can get different excuses from the organization. So this is very insightful. And the implication of this is that toxic culture is a big deal that really would over time affect productivity and the high performance or otherwise of the teams, of the talent, of the individuals in our organization. And I think that toxicity in whatever describes it, nobody wants to associate themselves with a toxic culture. If people are there with the toxic culture of our environment, most of them, they're just always marking time, right? And I'm talking from the people, from the employee perspective, and that everybody wants to work. Even if cultures are not perfect, people still want to go to a culture where they know that the culture is people-focused, their needs are met, there's concern for them. They also know that the culture, there's a purpose around the culture, right, of the organization. They want to be able to even explain to friends and families why the culture of their organization is that way, okay? Why their culture is very maybe work demanding, why their culture is play hard, work hard, why their culture is very, very no nonsense on excellence, petty on attention to detail, wanting to dot every I's and E's, and why, you know, their organization might not take kindly, you know, to frequent on attention to details from employees and all. They can tell you why there is a reason for the various policies and practices that support, you know, all those their culture desires, because they as well understand the purpose, you know, of the organization. You know, so it's been exciting to be able to facilitate this class. Building a caring culture requires strength, I can tell you. It's not the child's play, it doesn't happen in a day, but I can tell you that organizations can get there in building a great culture, a culture that is caring, a culture that is compassionate, agile, responsible, and engaging. Okay, so it's a wrap for me today. I'm thankful. We were meant to stop at 12, this 12:10, so apologies for taking more 10 minutes of the time. I'm excited about the future. I thank the P4P team for putting this together. I felt it's been worthwhile. Of course, we can't spend 120 minutes distilling everything, right? But if you need masterclass for your organization, let me do free publicity now. I know Jay will not mind. Let me know, because this framework alone has a workbook, right? A workbook drilled in to trainees, to masterclasses. So if you need more, you can let me know. You can buzz me, and then we can take it from there. You're free to share if you can. If you want to, you can share my slides, but please credit me, not because of anything. I didn't used to take this, I didn't used to send using the Gen Z word, but I discovered that maybe I used to wonder why top people, all those people will say you could use that resource materials, but they will tell you that please, plagiarism or intellectual property, don't steal. Use my stuff, but credit me, right? Because this is my intellectual property. I used to wonder that why now and all. Not a big deal. Share freely with all, but I just discovered that they've learned from experience that people abuse, right, and all. So some years ago, I also started saying it, like all those global thought leaders will say it at conferences, or they put it somewhere in the right material. You can use, when this is shared, you can use, right? You can do screenshot, PDF material, and all that stuff. But credit, it's also, you don't know, you're going to be a thought leader someday. I want to be able to impact organizations, institutions, individuals, and I want my influence and my impact to be credited to me. I'm over 40 now. It's not a thing of pride to ask that your work, right, and research for years be credited to you. Maybe in my younger days, I would have felt squeamish about it. Right now, you know, when they say once you're 40, nothing, you know, it's not that you live recklessly, right? I'm winding up or trying to be a bit informal. It's just that you don't care what people think. So, you know, so really, while I respect everybody, you know, I have no scruples about sharing my intellectual property or telling people. And it now holds you are now held accountable to be told that credit the brain or the intellectual property owner. Thank you, guys. Thank you. It's a wrap today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tia. This is fantastic. Can we please share some appreciation? Send your best emojis to him so that he will feel loved. Yes, let's see those emojis coming in. Thank you very much. This is fantastic. In particular, the depth, the sincerity of the way you shared the thoughts, and the openness where you gave us opportunity to contextualize it to our own organization without forcing it down truth, as the case may be. Again, culture is a journey. It's not something you attend one session, go back to your organization and cook immediately and you have it complete. I assume that the best institutions have spent years building whatever it is we admire today of them. So if we start that particular journey, I'm sure somewhere down the line, we'll be able to achieve it. Are there any straight questions or feedback for Tyler before he wraps up and leaves? Please, if you have any questions, use the chat box quickly. We'll just allow for another 2 minutes for that particular discourse. Meanwhile, like we said at the beginning of this particular session, this recording is available to you and will be sent to you directly, inclusive of the presentation that Tyler has shared. As always, please use the material, but please remember to reference the source where you got it from. We will have another webinar in the near future where we'll be engaging on analytics, data analytics, and we'll be sharing how the HR community can benefit from building their capacity and capability in data sciences. And so we'll just leave the Zoom session for another 1 minute or thereabout before we wrap it up and close. Thank you all for being present. This is Joel Emike, your host from P4P Institute, saying you do have a wonderful afternoon ahead.